Good morning, Besame.
Good morning, Daphne. How are you?
I'm doing well today. And good morning, everyone who's listening or watching today. Welcome to the Perfectly Planted podcast. I'm Daphne Bascom, and I'm your co host. I hope that this is not the first time you're joining us, but if it is, welcome to the show. And if you're already part of the Perfectly Planted community, we want to thank you for continuing to spend time with us. And we hope you enjoy today's conversation. So, Fesame, I know we moved the time and it's very early. Thank you for being so flexible. How are you doing? How was your week?
Oh, no problem. It is early. Daphne, you're going to hear it in my voice. No, but doing great. I just wanted to mention that it was I think just like everybody else, we have tough weeks. Work is a stressor, activities, and just life in general. And I found myself stopping and starting and to be grateful for one thing. And it was more on the norm side. So I wanted, I love my new norm. I love my norm. And anytime that goes off kilter, it's like you become thankful. It's like you just want to go back to that normal routine, schedule, pattern. And so that's what I would stop and think, you know, my, I would be grateful for that. But part of my routine, actually, Daphne, is to read for 20 minutes every night. I try. I don't know if I ever make it to 20 minutes every single night because I don't think anybody will know unless they're watching me read, which would be creepy. So, so anyway, but yeah, I do. I'll read, and I've really enjoyed the book we're going to be reviewing today called Fiber Fueled, and it is right behind me here. If you guys are watching live, but it's a book. I'm not going to butcher his last name. I just call him Dr. B, and he's the gut health med doc, right? So we will be reviewing that today. But first, Daphne, I hear that you've embarked on a new adventure. How was your week? Tell us a little bit about that.
My week was great. Yes, I am now a coach with the Vegan Gym. Yes, the Vegan Gym is probably the preeminent vegan health coaching community I'd say, globally. Our coaching staff is global, and our mission is to help 1 million vegans become the healthiest people they can be so that they can subsequently help another million achieve a healthy plant-based lifestyle. So excited about working with the vegan gym team and really embarking on my passion because I've been doing it for years on the side and now have a whole community that I can work with.
That's so awesome. Congratulations. I'm so excited. You look so happy.
Thank you. It's the early morning-ish.
That's right.
In Besame, I wanted to touch on your bedtime routine because that unwind routine is great. I know we've touched on sleep in past podcasts, and I think just talking to a number of my clients this week, sleep is a challenge for a lot of people in the United States. And I have a feeling that as we look at our podcast lineup for next year, we need to revisit the sleep conversation again.
No,
But
I agree. I agree, Daphne. I will say that I found myself waking up several times in the middle of the week and I'm like, why am I waking up? Did I have too much caffeine? Did I, what did I
mhm.
eat? What did I do? And it's just that sometimes we just can't relax the brain or just keep thinking about everything that happened in the day. So, anyway, it'll be interesting to cover that too. I agree. But let's get back to fiber fueled, which I think will help, right?
Agree. That's why I brought it up because as soon as you said, whether it's the caffeine or things you eat, um, what we eat really can impact our not only physical but mental health and even that ability to unwind. So when this book came out, I was intrigued, and partly because I don't know a lot, or I didn't know a lot about fiber, and I won't profess to know everything there is to know about fiber or the nuances of how important it is to our health. But as part of our goal to educate ourselves and our listeners about the health benefits of plant-based nutrition, we thought that this book would be a great addition to our conversations this year. And Dr. Will Bulsiewicz, and I probably have butchered it too, also has a companion cookbook. And I would highly recommend, if you are listening or watching and haven't purchased that, that you consider purchasing it. But since we only have 30 minutes, or now maybe 25 minutes, we're going to focus on a few key topics from the book. And that's going to be the microbiome. We'll talk a little bit about the little bugs in your gut. We'll talk about eating the rainbow, and we'll talk about F goals. And if you have Dr. B's book and you're following along with us, we're really going to focus a lot of our conversation today on chapters 4 and chapters 8. But before we get started, I just want to ground us all in a similar definition for what we're talking about in terms of understanding what fiber is.
That's important. Because I'm like, fiber, Metamucil?
That's what I used to take Metamucil.
That's what I think.
Well, Metamucil is a form of soluble fiber, but I think we're trying to encourage people to eat their fiber, not drink their fiber. So fiber is a type of carbohydrate that the body can't digest. And most carbohydrates, and I know that there's a loaded conversation around carbs, and that may be a full podcast itself.
Yep.
But most carbohydrates are broken down into sugar molecules called glucose. And fiber can't be broken down into these sugar molecules. Instead, it passes undigested through the body. And it's in the intestines where a lot of the components of the microbiome can help digest some of those fiber molecules and create other types of molecules that are like the short chain fatty acids that are very beneficial to our health. There's a lot of nuances to the different types and varieties of fiber, soluble, insoluble, and I would encourage you to read the book because Dr. B outlines them in great detail. But I think the other thing is that as much as we're fixated on, did you get your protein? Did you eat your carbs? Most Americans don't get enough fiber. The recommended for children and adults is about 25 to 35 grams a day. And I think the average American consumes about 15 grams a day.
Yep.
So fiber comes in things like whole grains, whole fruits, vegetables, legumes, and nuts. So you can eat the rainbow, and we had the rainbow up earlier, and we're going to talk about how eating the rainbow can help you meet and exceed that target of getting your recommended daily allowance of fiber. One more definition, and that's the microbiome. And I think that it's become a buzzword in terms of, I think, Besame, you mentioned it, that it's the new human organ, as Dr. B mentioned, but we have friends all over our body. And whether these are bacteria, fungi, or viruses, they live in our skin and they live within our intestinal tract. And the gut microbiome refers to all the microbes in our intestines. And they essentially act as another organ, and they're crucial for health. And the higher your microbiome diversity, the better it is for your health. And the food you eat impacts the diversity of the bacteria in your gut. And going back to your comment about eating, sleeping, your mental health, it's all connected.
Daphne, I will say that gut health has been a buzzword, like you mentioned. I mean, microbiome, gut health, everybody's like, get your gut in check. It's important. It's this, it's that. And I think that it's important, but it's also important to understand how and ways to do that. And I think that's where we are saying that, the whole food plant-based is one way and a great way to adjust it. And that's, I will say, the best way to put it in simplest terms is, you are what you eat. What you eat will determine that gut bacteria. And it has various ways of showing in your body with the balance of it. So a lot of acne comes from the gut and the gut bacteria. And how does that happen? Well, it's probably the foods that you're eating that are impacting that. It could be other aspects as well. I'm not saying that just because you have acne, your gut bacteria is out of whack. We're not saying that. It's just that it's one factor to take a look at and to see, can you improve ways of, how you eat, what you consume, what you put in your body in order to help mitigate that. And I've seen a huge difference personally when I've adjusted that too. In an earlier chapter, not chapters 4 or 8 that we're discussing today, Dr. B states that every 10% increase of consumption of processed foods, there's an associated 10% risk of developing cancer. So it's interesting how this is all, that microbiome, I think he called it, the hidden or the unspoken organ, because it is so important. Another statistic that he mentions is it's a 14% increase of an early death for every 10% increase of processed foods. I just find it so shocking that there's this correlation of food to these, chronic conditions that we see time and time again. And we're not saying, again, this is not medical advice to say that if you eat the way we're going to suggest or suggested by the book, that you're not going to get any of these chronic conditions. Not saying that, but it absolutely reduces your risk. That's proven. But I love, let's get back to the whole rainbow thing, because I love the title of chapter 4. It was Eating the Rainbow. And I think we're going to talk a little bit more about how many. So I'll just go ahead and say it. He says that there's about 400,000 plant varieties on Earth. Only about, 300,000 are consumable. So that's 100 less than the amount, right? 300,000 plant varieties on Earth that we can consume. I think we consume around 200 species in total, in general, like on Earth. And I think I'm embarrassed to say how many I consume.
I was going to ask.
Right? It's like about
how many are in your shopping cart?
Right. And I try and get variety in the shopping cart and try and make my shopping cart look like the rainbow. But I'll tell you what, being a creature of habit, it's tough because you're like, oh, I know how to make these things. And you don't venture off to try different things. But anyway, wanted to get your thoughts on that, Daphne.
I agree with you. And, as you were talking and just seeing your passion, I was wondering if this is partly what's motivating you to pursue your own certification in nutrition.
Yeah.
But you should share with everyone what your future plans will be. But to go back to what you were saying in terms of the variety, another quote from Dr. B's book, and it was actually, the quote is actually from Dr. Rob Knight, and Dr. B quotes it from a conference that he attended years before even he really embarked on his own personal health journey. But it was this quote: "The single best predictor of a healthy gut microbiome is the diversity of plants in one's diet." And I'm the same as you. I mean, I meal prep every week. I know I'm very comfortable with what I eat and what I can prep in a timely fashion. So I tend to put the same things in my cart. But the composition of our microbiome, it's determined by what we eat every day. And so more plant diversity equals a healthier microbiome equals a healthier you. That, if you can sum up the book, those are kind of some of the key takeaways. And every plant has its unique fingerprint in terms of fiber, antioxidants, phytochemicals, plant proteins, healthy fats. And so when you eat the rainbow, you really combine all of the best of what's in the plant kingdom. And I'll also include the fungi, because mushrooms get thrown into the plant kingdom, and their unique impact on gut health.
I
And
love
so,
that. Plant
yeah,
kingdom. I love that, Daphne. The plant kingdom. Eat all of the plant kingdom. I love that.
all 300,000 of them, and
Yeah.
we just have to try
Eating
and
for
get
days.
30.
That's right.
So even when I think about prepping meals, when you want to eat the rainbow, think about a Buddha bowl or a plate where the more colors on your plate, the more variety there is. But so, Vesame, how many plants do you think you eat in a week, or you and the family eat?
Ah. I mean, I think I was counting. Okay, so I was counting. So, I mean, I think we stick to similar whole grains. I mean, it's got to be about a dozen, which is so sad, but it's halfway there. So we're halfway there. Now I know, get up your game on the variety of it because it's only helpful. But I will. So I will post the picture of Dr. B's Fiber Fueled Cookbook that my book fairy, Daphne, got me. And there was a recipe in there. It's a shawarma bowl that has sweet potatoes and cauliflower. I added Brussels,
Uh-huh.
and you add, greens and quinoa or any green, lemon, make a tahini sauce, and you do it. And that's actually what I had last night. I made that specifically to test it out. It was amazing. I love that. And
Mhm.
I have actually a friend who was saying, look, it's kind of intimidating. It's a little overwhelming. And I'm like, I always start with bowls,
Mhm.
like you said, the Buddha bowl, and try and add like about 5 different things in that Buddha bowl. And just to give the variety anyway, because you don't want to eat just 2 things within a bowl. And it gives you that introduction of new things, and maybe each one. And I'm saying this, I'm giving advice because I should try it. Trying one new thing in that bowl. So if you don't like it, it's not ruining the whole thing. Just set it aside.
But Vesame, I don't know if you've experienced this. The one thing I found about plants is you can't mess them up. I mean,
No, you
throwing them
can't.
together,
Yeah.
they all seem to taste like I think I had a refrigerator clean out, and I don't know if I posted it or not, but I basically took all the veggies that I had sitting in the fridge and made a big mash, and it was delicious.
Yeah.
Um, and it was a great way to clean out the refrigerator. So,
Yep. We have a vegan quinoa chili. I'll have to post that recipe. It's a favorite. And
mm,
it's a good vegetable clean out, but
mhm.
it's so good. And it includes all of the different vegetables. So maybe it's a little bit more than a dozen, Daphne, but it's definitely not 30 in a week. It's definitely not 30 in a week. So definitely need to on my game. Can we go back to the whole grain situation because and carbohydrate discussion? Because being my fitness trainer, and from the start, I was like, I probably need to cut out the carbs, maybe even cut out the carbs at dinner time. It's like that's how people would say lose weight, cut out the carbs. And carbs got such a bad rap.
Mhm.
And I feel so bad for carbs. So people love carbs, but let's talk about carbs for a second because it's not the refined carbs. I'm not saying I'm going to cut a big piece of you know, something that's super
Cake,
refined. I don't know. Yes,
a Twinkie.
cake. Yeah, anything. I mean, and say, oh, this is still good for me. No, it's not. Like they're good grains, good carbohydrates, and they're also bad carbohydrates. So if it's refined white anything, not so great. But if it's something that is more wholesome, couscous, any brown rice, any rice,
Mhm.
quinoa, barley. Go ahead. You probably can name them even faster than me, Daphne.
No, no, Vesame, you're 100% correct. I think, and I will fall into that group when I was competing that demonized carbs. So carbs, I carb restricted a lot because I thought it would contribute to that little bit of fat that I was trying to lose, the extra calories that I was trying to cut out. But the thing that really shocked me is that my physique improved so much when I went plant-based and I was eating double the carbs. Um, but they were whole food plant-based carbs. I wasn't
Yeah,
eating calorie rich and highly processed carbs, which
right.
again, and I know we've spoken about this before, as the plant-based lifestyle has grown, so have the calorie-rich and highly processed plant-based options.
Yeah.
So I don't want everyone to think that when you say plant-based, it's not necessarily always healthy. Whole food plant-based, eating your fruits, eating your fibers, eating your whole grains. Um, Yesterday, I actually purchased some black rice after listening to, I can't remember who I was listening to, but I hadn't had black rice in years. And I thought, why not? So again, adding to that diversity, and it's so delicious. It's
Mhm.
just a slightly different flavor than a brown rice. And then I actually mixed my black rice with my quinoa,
Yeah.
and it again, quinoa is primarily carbohydrate. There's some protein with it. There's some protein with the black rice, but made those two in bulk, and now I have meal prep for the week, and I can just put the two of them into a bowl with other veggies cut up, and I've got a meal.
Yeah.
Um, but sh Fruit sugar is not bad. Carbohydrates from vegetables are not bad. Everything that we're advocating for is really focused on whole foods, not the highly processed foods that you get when you're at the checkout counter in the grocery store.
So, yeah, no, that's good. So, that's actually a great segue, Daphne, because I think Dr. B talks about his F goals,
Yes,
right? And
ma'am.
he goes through each of the ones, and he talks about, what shock I know you're gonna get to that in a second, but what shocked me was he's not limiting any, like, portion sizes of some of these items, because when you're eating the rainbow of whole food plant-based, there's no limit. I mean, you're eating, like, good stuff that's actually gonna be good for your microbiome. I mean, eat till you're full. Don't eat till to just to eat, but let's talk about the F goals.
Yep. And when you so just to close out your portion size comment, and for those of you listening or watching who follow Chef AJ, I mean, one of the things that is what awesome about eating plants is their energy density. So the calories per gram of plant that you eat means that you can eat a big bowl of spinach, with your onions and your peppers, and throw in a little bit of arugula or cilantro, and maybe just a topping of a homemade tahini dressing.
Mm,
And I mean, you will get full, but that volume, because the calories per gram is low, it's less than eating an ounce of potato chips. Potato chips are plants. Whoa, hit my microphone. Potato chips are plants, but when you have them fried, when you have them heavily oiled, the the number of calories per gram of food you eat goes up, which means that satiation, that filling up your stomach and sending the signals to your brain that you're full, it takes more to do that.
and you've
So
consumed more calories at that point. Yeah.
exactly. Yep. But F goals, I thought that was a great acronym. And, Dr. B's F goals align with the pillars for Perfectly Planted, which is one of which is eat empowered. And so F goals relates to F stands for fruit and fermented, G stands for greens and grains, O stands for omega-3 super seeds, A for aromatics, which are some of my favorites. I put onion and
Mhm.
garlic in everything.
Mhm.
L is for legumes. I also bought some black lentils. S is for sulforaphane, which are your cruciferous vegetables. And the other thing I've been noticing is that I think I've been eating broccoli every day. I've been on a broccoli kick.
Oh.
And I don't, I won't go through all of these because I know everyone watching or listening is going to want to buy the book after listening to us. But we did talk about the fruit and fermented, which ties back into your question about carbohydrates.
Mhm.
And just one other point to that, when you're thinking about fruit and calorie density, your dried fruit. So I love going to Trader Joe's and getting the dried mango or the dried
Mm.
apples, but that concentration of the dried fruit is now a more concentrated source of fruit sugars. And so energy density, the calories per gram in the dried fruit is a little bit higher than if you ate the mango in its natural form, where you're getting more of the water along with the fiber and the fruit
Mhm.
sugar.
Mhm.
So, also just remember that the form in which your fruit or your other items come in can also have an impact on, the overall picture of how you are distributing your macros throughout your meals.
Yeah, so Daphne, just to add on that, the little fruit cocktail stuff in a cup is not okay.
Oh,
Good, it's fruit. Good, it's fruit. But that's not. We're talking about
with the canned
go to
syrup,
the produce aisle. Go to the produce aisle and get the components of that, and make your own little fruit salad.
that would be highly recommended.
Yeah,
And two other things, and I know I can't believe we're already almost at 30
I
minutes, that
know.
you can sprinkle on. So a lot of the things I love to do with the veggies is use them as a topping. So putting some hemp seeds on top of your salad, or sprinkling flaxseed on top of your fruit, um, even lentils. If you have some extra lentils and you're making a Buddha bowl or a salad, just sprinkle the lentils on top. You can. I just haven't found a veggie combination that doesn't work. And you can think of your veggies and your fruits as a main, or you can think of them as a side, or you can think of them as a topping. You can use them in so many different ways.
That's a good idea, Daphne. I love berries. And reading this book, I mean, it wasn't by surprise, because I knew the benefits of berries. But for those who may not be into strawberries, I mean, my dad doesn't like strawberries, but but so many different berries, right? Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, goji berries, acai. Um,
Mhm.
they're all proven to regulate blood sugar. So it's and insulin levels. And so it's like those types of things that you could, like you said, sprinkle on top. I do overnight oats
Yep.
with a plant-based protein, vegan protein, and mixed inside. And I add blueberries to it, drizzle a little bit of honey. I mean, it's just a great way. I add seeds to that as well. So maybe I'll have a post on the overnight oats for everybody, because they're so easy. It's a quick go-to, whether it's a small breakfast or it's a snack. You can make them as large or small. I tend to make mine small. But yeah, all these benefits, there's all the leafy greens. I think he talks about how, like kale, watercress, Swiss chard, bok choy, spinach, they all provide those antioxidants that are cancer fighting agents. They also help lower cholesterol. They are bone strengthening. I know that osteoporosis, or the bone density has been an issue, something um, that has embarked in within our family history as well. Also, healthier skin. You'll find this natural glow in your skin for eating some of these things. These are just all amazing gifts and byproducts of eating this way and this adjusted way, all through the F goals. So yeah, back to the whole portion sizes. I was like, what? And I'll sit there, I oatmeal, add blueberries, and sometimes I'll just set aside a separate cup. I don't measure it. Sorry,
Mhm.
but I'll
Mhm.
just
Yeah,
eat
why
the
should you? You
blueberries.
shouldn't have to.
It's so good. It's just like, it's also a satisfier as well, because I used to have a big sweet tooth. Probably still do, but now I can't eat that refined sugar. It just doesn't
Yeah,
taste right to me. But it's the sugar and the fruits that are so satisfying.
I agree with you. And, for those of you who are time pressed, one trick I found is that sometimes I'll do my overnight oatmeal in the morning, where I'll, take the fruit out the freezer, I'll set it on the counter, I'll add my flax, my chia, and then a little bit of oat milk. And by the time I finish my workout, it is defrosted. Add a little bit of oatmeal. By the time I finish my shower, it's softened. So if for some reason you're time constrained, don't feel that you can't use these recipes.
Right.
And that I think there's a lot of misconceptions around a plant-based lifestyle, and which goes to, as we wrap up some key takeaways from Dr. B's book, which is try adding more plants to your plate.
Yeah.
In fact, I was jotting down notes that we need to have a podcast on plant-powered poop, because I love Dr. B's, listening to him talk about poop, and poop is important. But
Daphne, sorry to interrupt you. I will say, my jaw dropped when they were like, have you ever heard of a fecal transplant or whatever? I was like, wait, what?
yeah,
What?
and
It
it's
helps
good.
somebody,
It helps.
and it helps.
C.
I was
diff.
like,
Wait,
that was the night that I definitely stuck with that 20 minute of reading after I read that. I was like, we'll get to that in another podcast, but
yeah.
get the book to read a little bit more.
Donating your poop may become like donating your blood. But the eating plant-based is not expensive and it's not time consuming. It's becoming comfortable with knowing what to eat, when to eat, and how to prep it. The diversity, so eat the rainbow. Can't stress hard enough how that diversity will provide you with all you need from a nutritional perspective. You also need to eat your F goals. So definitely want to make sure you focus on your F goals. Engage in mindful eating. That's something else that Dr. B mentions in the book, and we've talked about mindfulness. So don't eat at your computer, don't eat while you're watching television. Actually, maybe try and have a conversation with friends or family, or even just focus on your food and think about where it came from, what it's doing for you. But mindful eating is also important. And then finally, if you are not a tracker, and that's okay, you don't want to count calories or protein or carbs or fat, maybe just for a week, count your plant points. How many unique different types of plants are you eating? And can you get to that target of 30? It's definitely achievable, and would love to hear from anyone listening or watching how many different varieties of plants you eat per week. And Dr. B has a nice section in his book about the plant-powered lifestyle and how to track your plant points.
No, I love it. This book has been great. I encourage everybody to grab a copy because it gives you a lot of science behind all of this. And it like you mentioned, it all interrelates in your overall health, which I think is so important, and really our intention for this podcast, to just really educate everybody and understand, look, there are options out there. There's ways to continue to improve your health, and we just want everybody to live their best life. So once again, thank you all so much for taking the time and spending with us your Sunday morning on another Perfectly Planted Sunday Seedling. If you are enjoying Sunday Seedlings and Perfectly Planted, please feel free to share with your family and friends. If you go ahead and like and subscribe on YouTube or social media or any of the podcast providers that we have, on Apple Podcasts, again, I just want to, lots of my friends have come to me. It's Perfectly Planted, but the planted is an @ sign. So we'll go ahead and make sure that that's something that you all get cleared. Also, we hope to hear from you on your feedback on this podcast. Would love to hear some comments. Would you like to see some recipes? Would you like to hear a little bit more about, maybe get that tracker, a copy of a tracker that we can work on? And most importantly, we appreciate you all being here today with us. So be well, and we look forward to joining you again soon.
Bye-bye.